Hey YouTube friends, today I wanted to get into everything I did in the Carolinas that wasn't mountain biking, because boy was there a lot, not as much as I'd like there to be. I'm going to tell you the consistent theme of my next few videos is probably going to be how much I shortchanged the state. But I want to show you some awesome things you can do as a van lifer in the Carolinas and just give you guys some general rundown of what I did. Let's get into it. All right, before we get into our video on the Carolinas, just remember, if at any point during this video you like our content, please hit that like and subscribe button, turn on notifications, and feel free to drop us a comment. The Carolinas are an amazing place. I shortchanged them, and I think that the consistent theme of my videos, because what happened was I ended up loving mountain biking so much, and there were so many awesome mountain biking opportunities that I had a month budgeted, and I ended up spending more of my time mountain biking as opposed to anything else. However, I can kind of divide the Carolinas into two distinct portions that were not mountain biking related for me. The first was the beaches. So I started at Myrtle Beach. I camped at Myrtle Beach State Park. Let me give you a tour of Myrtle Beach State Park and the campgrounds. So we're at Myrtle Beach State Park, taking a break from mountain biking. Came through the mountains of Georgia, which is kind of a little out of our way, honestly, because we're gonna drive back up kind of sort of towards that way. But you can see it's a beautiful beach. Odie's with me, but he's not allowed on the beach because it's after 10 a.m. So he's not allowed on the beach from 10 to 5, which I'm all for, actually. I think that's a great rule. But the water is absolutely gorgeous. You can see all kinds of people relaxing on the beach and enjoying the beach. So we stayed at the Myrtle Beach State Park campground. Downsides, it's loud, planes. Lots of planes. You're right by the airport. Downsides, you're right on your neighbor, right? So you see me there. My neighbor is taking up every bit of their space. But upside, full hookup, right? Water, sewer, electric. Upside, bathrooms are clean. Upside, more than a quarter, less than a half mile from the beach. But downside, lots and lots of people. Very busy campground. It was hard to get into. I think I got the space through RV, but overall it's decent. Water in the shower, hot. Upside, shower water pressure, not good. Downside, each site having a picnic table, firing. Upside. So overall, I mean, it's a decent campground. Odie likes it. Say hi, Odie. Hi, say hi, buddy. Oh, he's not saying hi. Oh well, he's too busy sniffing. Lots of stuff to sniff. It looks like people do come and stay for a hot minute here, which is great. But this kind of shows you what you're dealing with, right? Look at how close those RVs are to each other. I mean, they're almost touching, right? And you're definitely, if you look between your neighbor and you definitely do not have some space. And staying in Myrtle Beach, I then went into Myrtle Beach proper, like the boulevard and all that. I thought the boulevard was pretty cool. It gets a bad rap. Let me show you the boulevard. So we're continuing our walk down the Myrtle Beach boardwalk, and it is really beautiful. The ocean here is just really lovely. In front of me, you kind of see it's empty, so I'm gonna show you. This is looking down the boardwalk, which I think is pretty cool. Let's see if I can get that to go there. Getting a little overcast, but as you look down, you can kind of see boardwalk. We're about to go down, see what's down here. And the ocean. Really just a beautiful, beautiful boardwalk. Yeah, I absolutely really like it. So a lot of the locals referred to Myrtle Beach as the dirty Myrtle. They told me how bad it was, how this it was. And the truth is, there are definitely a few seedy areas. Even on the main drag, I forget what it's called now, but where the boulevard is, all that. Like some of the hotels and things are a bit run down, they're a bit seedy, and you can kind of tell that. But it's not like dangerous. It doesn't make you feel like you're in, you know, a war zone or anything like that. You can just tell that maybe parts of it's seen better days. But I really liked Myrtle Beach, and here's why. It sort of reminded me of an America of a bygone era. Meaning there were arcade games, right? There were like I don't know how to describe it. The boardwalk was like being on an old-fashioned boardwalk, and I really liked that feeling. I think it was nostalgic, right? And I didn't even live in that time period. I'm a 70s child. I was born in the 70s. I was really raised in the 80s and 90s. And I never lived in that area. It was dead before I even got there. But the fact is that I still think it's kind of cool, right? I spent a week total in Myrtle Beach. Would I go back there? Absolutely. One of the things I really liked about staying at Myrtle Beach State Park was the plane watching. I thought that was cool. The beaches were really nice. The water is absolutely beautiful. I had a great time. Dogs are allowed on the beach between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. I believe. I think they have to be off the beach by 10 a.m. Double check that. And yes, that's right. They have to be off the beach by 10 a.m. They can't go back on until after 5 p.m. Again, I thought that was a great balance. I thought that was a good rule. It struck the balance between the people who wanted to have their pets with them and who don't want to be around dogs. Completely fair. And so I enjoyed that. Now, after Myrtle, I actually proceeded into North Carolina and spent a substantial time mountain biking, which I'm not really going to get into this video. I've already done a mountain biking video, so I'm going to jump over that. We'll come back to it in the end for a second, but I'm going to tell you about Charleston. Charleston was my next stop in the Carolinas, and oh boy, did I really love Charleston. I stayed in the visitor center parking garage. Now, Charleston is very van life friendly, so much friendly that the visitor center parking garage, the first floor, which has really high clearance, by the way, allows you to park overnight and stay overnight. So I'm showing you videos of that as we talk. And I went through, I enjoyed parking there because it was relatively quiet at night, and more importantly, it was literally close to everything. It was directly across the street from the visitor center and kind of the local, it was more just a visitor center. But from there, you could catch trolley tours, you could catch the Great Line bus tour, you could do all of that right from there. I walked to King Street. It's literally like 3 blocks. And so your major street is only 3 blocks away. You are a mile and a half from Fort Sumter. Everything is walkable. But let me talk to you about Charleston. So the first thing I will tell you is Charleston has so much you can see. You can see historic houses. You can go to Fort Sumter where the opening shots of the Civil War were fired. You can go have an amazing shopping experience and expensive shopping experience, as well as get some amazing food on King Street. Charleston has that old historic charm. First thing I want to show you is Fort Sumter, and I'm going to kind of talk to you about what's going on the screen while we do it. Fort Sumter is where the opening shots of the Civil War were fired. There's a really cool historic story that I don't want to tell you, but I want to tell you this. If you tour Fort Sumter, you have to go by boat. You have to go with the Forest Service's arranged provider. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you take the first boat of the day or the last boat, but preferably the first boat. Because during the first boat, there's a flag raising ceremony. And that flag raising ceremony has tremendous significance. If you're an American, you will be crying by the time that flag is raised. I can almost promise you. Because you'll know the story because they'll tell you on the boat right over. Then I would recommend going to tour the city, to take a trolley tour or Gray Line bus tour. I took the Gray Line bus tour. It was fine. They're kind of the same. And you kind of pick what areas you want to see. So after that, I went to... So we're continuing our tour of Charleston. We just did the bus tour. I did Gray Line as opposed to trolley just because it was $5 cheaper and I'm being a cheapskate. It was a good tour. It was a great tour, but there's no hop on, hop off, which is the only thing I didn't like. It was 90 minutes of being on a bus. Taking Odie for a walk because the visitor center is literally next to the parking garage for the visitor center where Jack is parked. So that's awesome sauce. And behind me, you can see that there are these beautiful homes. Can't move the camera that much, but these absolutely beautiful homes, and we're walking on this tree-lined path. Continuing our walk through Charleston, we're at Marion Square. Marion Square is super cool. I'm just now seeing it, like they showed it on the Gray Line bus tour, and obviously we drove by because it's not a hop on, hop off bus, but what I'm liking is behind me you can sort of see it. There's all these art vendors. I'm not going to show you any of these artwork because I don't believe in doing that. But there's all these vendors set up selling their art, which you guys know I have a thing for street art and local art. That's what I collect. So this is like a mecca to me of heaven of potential art to buy. So after that, I went to the Charleston City Market. There's historic churches around there. There's all kinds of cool stuff around there to see. And from there, I proceeded to walk down King Street. King Street is great. It has the fanciest Target I've ever seen. That was kind of cool. I didn't actually go in, but overall, it's got a bunch of fancy shops. It has some really good food. I had dinner on King Street. Can't remember the name of the restaurant. There's so many great restaurants there. Just take your pick. Do some Yelp reviews, etc. From there, I just simply walked back and had a night, but I did get to tour some historic houses. I'm gonna show you the Reed Aiken house. This is the historic houses that is a whopping 2 blocks away from the visitor center garage where you should park. We're in the rear courtyard of the Aiken Reed house, which is right by the visitor center. So one of the things you can do in Charleston is tour all these historic plantations, which would be awesome, but I'm on limited time. So this is kind of the grandest house in Charleston. It was occupied by Governor Aiken, and it shows you the way of life from back then, and it's very well preserved. So to the left is the kitchen house, to the right, or then you see the main house, and to the right is the carriage house. And we're sort of in the grand courtyard out back, which probably would have been private in most homes, but because of the layout of this particular house was actually public areas, visitors would leave their carriages inside the carriage house when they came to visit. So this will just give you a feel what it's like. This is the double parlor, which would have been the social hub of the house, right? And as they point out, the mission is preservation, not restoration. And so they are preserving it in the state that they basically found it as best they can. So all of these things just kind of give you a flavor for Charleston. All right, mountain biking. Now, I did a whole video dedicated to North Carolina mountain biking, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But what I loved about the Carolinas was that it had a blend of public and private land. So there's 2 bike parks, both on the Lone Pass. There's also the Pisgah Recreation District and the Solly Recreation District. The Pisgah is known to be challenging and hard. The Solly is light and flowy. I skipped Pisgah this time at the recommendation of my mountain biking coach because she thought it would be too hard for me. Probably right. And so I stayed at the Solly. I also did ride Rock Creek and ride Canoga, which are the 2 private parks. I rode DuPont State Forest, which is amazing. Highly, highly, highly recommend that you do DuPont State Forest because it's beautiful, it's flowy. There are hundreds of miles of trails. You can get lost for days and be perfectly happy. The mountain biking is world class. And they kind of know it because there's a huge mountain biking culture. I will say they're very, very anti-e-bike. Particularly at DuPont. There are big blinking signs warning you not to e-bike, and so it is. I would advise you not to take an e-bike because people do get actually angry about it by story. I had a medical exemption, so there was no issue there. I actually cleared it with the Forest Service before I went. So anyway, the mountain bike is fantastic. Let me make a comment on my base camp Thousand Trails. There are several Thousand Trails locations in North and South Carolina. I believe one of them might still be shut down because of Hurricane Helene, because I can't seem to get into it. I stayed at both the Oaks at Point South and Carolina Landing. Carolina Landing gets a really bad rap. I don't think that rap is fair. I'm gonna show you some video of it. It is very steep. The sites are very small. And that is true. Those things are very true. The campground stuff is very dated. I still liked it because the staff was very nice. They even let me receive packages there when I wasn't there. That's how kind they were. Because I had a few packages get delayed, I came back when I was going through and got them. So for my needs, for my van life needs, in terms of being able to receive packages, getting clean water, doing laundry, etc., Carolina Landing was great. If you have a larger rig, I don't think you're gonna like Carolina Landing. This is probably why it gets a bad rap. Oaks is out at Point South, has a great location. I did a whole video on it. I encourage you to watch that video. But in summary, it is a great base camp. It's conveniently located about an hour and a half outside of Charleston. It's also not that far from Savannah, I don't believe. And so it is a overall great base camp, and it has some nice hiking trails and some things to do around the campsite that are nice. I will say the downside is the plumbing is older and the bathrooms backed up and overflowed when I was there, which was kind of disgusting. And I get the impression that may be a routine problem for them. But the campground itself is relatively lovely. All right, some points on on the Carolinas outside of mountain biking. The Carolinas were fairly van life friendly. Charleston, letting you park in the visitor center garage was amazing. Yes, it was a little bit costly, but you're parking in the middle of a city, you're getting safe parking, you're getting legal parking, and you would have paid to park in those areas anyway, because there's a lot of things you want to see in those areas. So I think you're getting a good deal. Myrtle Beach was lovely. It is not necessarily van life friendly. I don't think there are a lot of places that you can boondock. Myrtle Beach State Park was absolutely lovely. I enjoyed it. I will say that the campground itself, that it was fairly tight. The people are definitely not the most experienced campers sometimes, and by that I mean they're frankly don't necessarily obey good campground etiquette. But I think that that's because they're not camping all the time, right? That was the impression I got. But I never had any problems, etc. I enjoyed the town of Myrtle Beach. I really enjoyed the state park because the beach was lovely. I spent 2 days just hanging on the beach. I thought that was great. Would I go back to the Carolinas? Oh, absolutely. Totally for the mountain biking. Wish I would have gotten to see more of the state. Hopefully next time I will. But that is my take on the Carolinas. I really strongly encourage you to watch the mountain biking video. My heart and soul's in that video. I think you'll enjoy it. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button, turn on notifications, drop us a comment, and thank you for watching. Take care.